Welcome back to The Line. There were a lot of firsts last week in the ongoing reform effort to address problems in the Albuquerque Police Department. Last Thursday was the first hearing since Mayor Tim Keller and Police Chief Mike Geyer took office, and it was the first hearing since John Anderson, the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Mexico, has been leading the local office. And according to an article in the Albuquerque Journal, it was the first time that, quote, officials and community advocates who spoke in court expressed optimism with the new administration's approach to reforms and their willingness to meet with community members, end quote. Now, Mary, you're on the crime beat for the AP. A lot of happy talk coming out of APD right now. What was your sense of what's turned the tide here? What's happened?
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of people on the same side in a way that didn't just even politically or philosophically, right? Keller had campaigned on reform a little bit, but has made such a big kind of push or show of supporting community policing, which is at the heart of so much of this DOJ, PD reform effort. And so I think that's why there's, one of the clear reasons why there is a change in tone. You see the ACLU has been so supportive of that, and so they had that quote that kind of went across the board that the adults were in the room.
Right.
I think that the prior Berry administration and Chief Eden and Jessica Hernandez were, they just had a different approach and outlook to it all, and there was just unbelievable collision, I think, especially at the end. And when I went back and read these stories, I was reminded of just how fired up everything had become in that last hearing with questions over whether Huntsman, one of the higher ups at APD or others had been recording the monitor without his knowledge. And so this, of course, is just a major
It's like night and day, isn't it? It's amazing when you think about it.
But it's early, and as the journal noted, there's no question that everyone firmly believes what they believe, and I'm sure will act on those beliefs.
That's right.
But it's early.
That's right. James Ginger, Mary just referenced him. He's been the one writing these huge 500-page reports that have been very critical of the reform effort to this point. He's made a whole different change of tune, hasn't he? He's seeing something he likes here from this new administration.
Yeah, I kind of wonder how much the attitude changes when somebody's picking up the slack. They're no longer the administration that is with the finger being pointed at them.
Right.
And I think maybe Ginger, I don't know, but maybe he's seeing kind of a clean slate. And Keller's administration came out pretty quickly with a whole team devoted to looking at this reform. So
that's right.
It sounds good.
It sounds holistic, like they're backing up a little bit, taking a look at everything with a wide angle. Exactly right. And Dan Foley, he did say, meaning the Mayor Keller, that I quote, I own this. He was very clear about this before he even got in office. Is he acting in an ownership manner to you?
So far. I mean, one of my big critiques of R.J. Berry, his administration, was this wasn't an issue that started on his watch. This was an issue that started before.
Fair enough.
But he turned it into something that he didn't own and say, I'm going to go fix.
Right.
He just kind of turned it into a pissing match between him and everybody else. And now, it's kind of going to be forgotten. And I think Tim Keller's proven that he came in maybe learning from the sins of the past and saying, I'm going to go ahead and let everybody know that it started before I got here, but I'm going to own what I'm going to do during this time. I think everybody's excited because anytime you have that consternation and frustration, when you have a change, you're hoping things are going to go. I hope his commitment to reforming APD goes different than his promise to the taxpayers on raising taxes, because he said one thing and did another. So I think now, as this is looking to come to fruition, I also think it's also in line for him to want to fix this and try to get this done. I mean, there's no way to not immerse yourself in trying to fix the process.
Right.
I mean, there's nobody out there that's defending this and saying there's really not a problem at APD. There's nobody. Well, there was Mayor Berry and his administration.
Right.
Everybody else was saying there is a legitimate problem. And I just think that the inconsistencies from RJ, when Mayor Berry would say, I'm going to welcome in, we're going to welcome in the Justice Department. We'd love to have you here. We want you to help us fix this. Now we don't like it. Now we're angry.
Right.
I mean, he should have said, no, you're not coming, and put the fight up from the beginning, or he should have welcomed him in and said, I'm going to work with you.
It's really laid bare how resistant they were, weren't they? When you
I think it laid bare that they didn't have
now.
a plan. I think it laid bare that they were sort of in denial.
That's right.
And that I think that there was some folks that were that we're taking the tactic of, you know, just a full frontal attack all the time and deflect instead of just saying we're going to fix it. And I think Keller's proven that he's learned.
right.
Learned from the mistakes of the
That's
past.
right. Interestingly, Mr. Ginger, James Ginger, had said and pushed for the very first thing to have happen, as has happened in other cities that have consent decrees like we have, is a compliance bureau and a compliance plan. And that is now on the table. Looks like this is going to be moving forward. And again, just like all these other panelists have said, the resistance to that very idea right off the top has held this whole thing up. The previous administration had no interest in a compliance plan at all. Big change to you as you read this? Is that a major?
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's a big change, and it's not just the tone of, you know, a change in tone from the administration,
Right.
but it's a change in actually what they're immediately going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically means that, you know, 3.5 years of a lot of finger pointing, a lot of defensive tactics, you know, this recording thing, you know, allegations of all kinds of stuff.
It's a big
back
deal,
and
by the
forth.
way, this idea of recording Mr. Do you know what I mean?
And also bringing it
bias.
back up,
I mean,
and the city attorney getting into a, you know, whatever with
Didn't
Ginger.
the judge get really angry at her about
Yeah,
that?
and
Yep,
I think
that's right.
appropriately so, because that's not the kind of conduct you want to be engaged in as an
That's right.
attorney and before
That's
a
right.
judge. I think that, you know, remember that the only people in this entire drama that are still in the same positions are Judge Brack and James Ginger.
Right.
Everybody else has changed, and in that sense, there is a honeymoon period, certainly.
That's right.
But I think that having new people in those roles might help in terms of their positional dynamics, because people, you know, tend to occupy a position, and it's hard for them to move away from there without feeling like they're losing ground.
That's
so
right.
I think that
That's a good way to put it.
just in terms of, you know, their dynamics interpersonally,
Yep.
there's a lot to be said for new people being in those positions and hopefully moving the ball forward in
That's
a positive
right.
way.
That's right. Mary Huditz, you know, the idea of the costs has been an issue as well. There was a certain amount of money that we had budgeted as a city for this. It looks like it's going to blow by that a little bit. I can't help but think, what were we getting for our money's worth at this previous administration? Do you know what I mean? A whole lot of money went out the door without a lot of progress. And now we have this idea of Mr. Ginger even saying, I'm not even going to bother to write my final report here. I'll just be a helping hand because things are moving in the right direction. Again, a positive sign to you? Does that sound like progress?
Sure. I mean, I recall reading a lot of Ginger's reports, and I think at least 2 in a row or so were saying the same thing.
Right.
And so,
That's right.
that would be another kind of place where the wheels were spinning and there wasn't movement. But I think that is actually another thing, if I recall correctly, from Keller's campaign, is that he wanted to get through this process.
That's right.
It's an expensive process, and
That's
he
right.
wanted to get this reformed and get the DOJ kind of, you know, done with and move on. I think it hampers. It doesn't hamper, but I think that a lot of other issues come into play.
Sure, there's recruitment issues.
The
there's-
recruitment,
absolutely.
exactly. I was just going to
Yeah.
get into police officer numbers, and
Right.
it all goes together, but it's just an incredibly complex puzzle.
That's right.
And so,
And this
if
is
they
a
can get through
this is a
this.
big thing that RJ too. I think we thought he would have learned from being in the legislature with the Duran decree that we dealt with in the courts.
Right.
You're going to be here for a little bit of time. The judge and these actors, like Laura was talking about, they're going to be here for a long time.
right.
And so, no matter what the message is that RJ is going to want to get out 5 years from now, they're going to have a bully pulpit. They're going to be able to say things like the prior administration didn't help, or the mayor didn't do this, or these people didn't do that. And, you know, had they asked, if I would have been counseling someone like RJ, the first thing I would have done is sat down and said, okay, so who's going to outlive who in this deal? Clearly the DOJ
Right.
and the judge is going to outlive us. So how do we at least put ourselves in a good light so that when someone's attacking us, we got someone later on to say,
That's right.
well, they were easy to work with.
That's
They
right.
didn't do that.
That's
I
right.
mean,
I mean, the fact that he
That's
didn't
right,
even
please.
show up to any of the hearings.
Right.
Meeting
This was
Mayor
the
Berry
first
at the time,
right,
yeah.
That the mayor of Albuquerque has actually
right.
shown up and addressed the judge.
That's
that
right.
goes a long way towards that judge feeling like there's an actual commitment from the city, from
That's
the
right.
administration to do
right.
something. And I think that that's one of the reasons, interestingly enough, the judge was looking to go into senior status. Once they do, they're looking to get rid of some of the not tougher, but some of the longer, you know, more onerous cases, because they're looking to, you know, retire and wind down. That was apparently critical in his decision, seeing that there was a commitment from the city, and that's an important outcome for
Interesting.
continuity.
That's right. That's exactly right. And we're going to wrap this up. But it's interesting how also the use of force issues were big for, of course, this reform effort. In that we're getting some clarity now with different levels of use of force and who gets to, you know, overlook what. And the police union has bought into this as well. So
it's costing us
progress is
money,
coming.
Gene, but the lawsuits are costing a lot more money.
Thank you. Exactly right. When we come back to the line, we'll look at how New Mexico is preparing for the upcoming fire season.